Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, near or far, high or low. Welcome back to the Coach D podcast, where we dive deep into the game with some of the best minds in basketball. Today, we've got our returning guest who's been making serious waves in the play development space, Coach Gabe from By Any Means Basketball. And honestly, since we last spoke, Gabe has been really pushing the game forward, opening a brand new gym, refining his approach to skill acquisition and continuing to help players maximize their potential. In this episode, we're going to catch up on his journey, breakdown that involves his training methods, and get insights on how players should approach their workouts. If you're serious about getting better, you do not want to miss out on this episode. So please give a warm welcome to returning guest. Shout out to Coach Gabe in the studio. Thank you so much, man, for real.
Yeah, no, thank you, Coach D. I appreciate you having me on, man. I know last time that we spoke, I had a blast on the podcast, man. I enjoy listening and tapping in every now and then, man. So I'm super excited to be back on the podcast today.
Thank you, man. And just before we even get started, Coach Gabe, how is your physical and how is your mental right now? Just started 2025. Talk to me, man.
Yeah, no, this year, well, I guess this past year has been a absolute grind. Honestly, been working more than ever now just because we've expanded and we've started to grow and open up teams. So we are actually now going on our first official year of having Adapt Academy, which is our club program, where that is where most of my focus and time has been spent. And then we recently just launched Detail San Diego.
Yeah.
So that is, a big move as well. Partnering up with Coleman Ayers of By Any Means Basketball. We wanted to bring something to San Diego that San Diego hasn't really seen before, from a training standpoint, but also from a club standpoint. And so it's been great, running these two businesses and just being in them both every single day. A lot of work that has had to be done every single day, but I'm loving every moment and taking it all in and making sure that we are growing each and every day. So yeah, man.
Absolutely. And just with regards to just how much, like, I see the Lakers in the back, even for them, the roster's looking different. So, like,
Yeah.
I just, it's so funny because I actually came across a clip on Instagram where it was JJ Redick and the camera caught him smiling, and then he was like, no, I gotta be serious. Then he got like to the coach photo. I was like, no, I can't be too happy. But honestly, if you're a Laker fan, it's just an exciting time, man. Honestly, super exciting.
Yeah, I was completely shocked when I think the trade happened. It was like at night, sometime at night on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And it was like I think they played the Knicks that day, so I watched that game with the Knicks, and I ended up just like going to sleep after that. I want to say, and I woke up the next morning, and I don't have any notifications on my phone. I don't like have Instagram or any notifications on. I just only see things when I like go onto like an app.
Right.
So first thing I went to is I went on to like a group chat with my friends. I got like a message, and I saw like there was like 60 messages, and I was like, what the heck? And I read them all, and I was like, there's no way this is real. And I went to social media and I saw it, and I was freaking out. I was like, wow, that is nuts. So it's a
Yeah.
very time to be a Laker fan right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even just speaking about just what has happened since we last spoke and just the evolution of what you're doing. Like, you recently opened a new gym for players to work out in. Like, what inspired that move and how has it changed the way you train athletes?
Yeah, so we actually we didn't open up a gym. We just started Detail San Diego. Eventually, our goal is to have a gym. We're looking right now for, some warehouse spaces to have a facility. But we actually just currently rent, or I guess lease out space from a current local basketball facility.
Nice.
So we started, training and running our training program there, Detail San Diego, and then we also have Adapt Academy there. And so we've been there now for about like a year. And it's been very good, man. It's a great spot. There's 3 courts in there. So we rent out 1 court, and we use the 1 court pretty much every day from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So we have practices, training sessions going on and stuff. But Yeah, it's been cool, being in a bigger space. Recently, the last time that we talked, I was in my own little smaller facility that we
Yeah.
been in, but we moved out of there, and now we're just like in a bigger space, and we're looking currently to expand and hopefully get our own space here soon. That can hold together, some teams and some training.
What's that like for you? Even just since the last time we spoke to now, just to know that you've got that slot booked and you can do whatever you want. You can really have that time and attention to detail to really work with the players. Like, how, does it feel like, I don't know, like that weight is kind of lifted off your shoulders where you're kind of coaching at a bit more ease? Like, how does it feel now?
100%. Yeah, it makes things a lot easier, knowing that we can step into the gym every single day and like this is our time on the court. The downside, but honestly, I wouldn't even say it's that big of a downside, is we share the facility with other programs. Like there is other basketball programs in there. There's futsal going on in there. There's cheerleading going on in there. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But what we do is we just literally turn it into our own spot. We have music blasts, and we have like a bunch of banners and pop up posters we put up. We have, like an A-frame that we set up that has like our core values and non-negotiables. So people step into the gym, they know like, okay, there's something different going on over here. And a lot of people will approach us and just ask us, like, well, what's going on over here? What is this? So it's kind of cool, from a standpoint of there's a lot of traction and a lot of people walking in and out of the gym. But then also there can be some downsides where it's very loud, it's noisy, and it could be distracting sometimes with all these other sports in there. But we love it, and it's a great spot.
See, and you just mentioned something that the players see when they enter your gym is you just highlighted the core values and the non-negotiables. Kind of just speak further on that because I'm super intrigued. Like, what did the players see, and how did you guys come up with like the important core values, but also like the non-negotiables? Because that was dope.
Yeah. So, culture is everything in our program. We only allow families and players to join our program if we feel that they are going to not only uphold the culture, but raise it as well. And, especially for the club side of things and the team side, a lot of clubs, they'll just take anybody, whether that's a great player, but maybe he has a terrible attitude, or that's, a great player, but the family's just, the parents are just all over the place. And we have decided to do things a little bit differently and only allow families and players who are going to truly value, our culture and value what we, have to offer, but then also just people who are fully invested and bought into what we're doing. And so if we're not fully bought into it, if you're not fully invested, then honestly, you're probably just not a good fit. And so in order to kind of keep the culture together, we created core values and non-negotiables. And this is something players see every single day they walk in the gym. It's something that the parents see. We have, the A-frame set out. And, us as coaches, we came together before we created the program. We said, okay, what are the most important things? What are the things that we value the most? And then how are we going to actually work on these things? How are we going to actually, showcase it and make sure that the players are implementing these characteristics and these qualities and, becoming better human beings. And so,
Yeah.
some of the core values that we have is one, love, making sure that we are loving each other and sharing love to everybody in the gym. Two is making sure that we have belief in ourselves, belief in each other, and that we understand what the common goal is. Three is making sure that we are resilient. So, we are making sure that no matter how difficult something is, no matter if we're in a game and all the odds are stacked against us, we are being resilient. We're not complaining about these things. We're just plugging through to make things work out. So those are a few of our core values, and we have non-negotiables. One of them is understanding what the common goal is and us working together towards that common goal. And the common goal is development. Like we just want to get better. So today we're going to be pushed. We're going to do things that are difficult, things that we may not like, but we at the end of the day are working together to reach that common goal. Another non-negotiable is be willing to receive feedback, but also be willing to give feedback. And that means giving feedback to the coaches, giving feedback to your teammates, and then be willing and receptive to teammates coming in and telling you something like, hey, we gotta make sure we're doing this. Hey, the coach maybe comes in and say, look, your effort level right now, or maybe your attitude right now isn't on par with what we need. Here's what I need you to do instead. So being willing to recept or receive that feedback, and then be willing to also give it out. Another non-negotiable is be ready to do uncomfortable and tough things. So there's going to be days where we come in and maybe we are, doing some drills, or maybe we're doing some culture activities where you are having to open up and you're having to discuss openly what's kind of going on with you as a person, what's going on you as an athlete.
Wow.
And you have to be willing to share those things and talk about those things. And maybe it's okay, you're unhappy with how a teammate is treating you. You need to be willing to go do a difficult thing and have that conversation. So those are some of the non-negotiables and core values that we have in our program, and players and parents, they know these things. When you
Yeah.
step into the program and they join the program, they know that these are things that we are holding true every single day.
That's big time. Even just like the examples and the exercises that you give out to the players, like being able to do uncomfortable things and, just being open about just how your day is going. Or like you said, I don't really appreciate how this teammate is treating me. That really resonates because the team that I'm with now, shout out to the London Elite girls team, like I've seen when we first started, it was 12 individuals, but what they have in common is basketball. Whereas now they're really starting to know what they like. They're spending time off the court, and that really does translate to when they're on the court. They're just able to make certain reads, and just the overall team cohesion increases, man. So you just said something that is so key. And even just like, even with that coach, how has your approach to coaching or even play development shifted in any major ways since we last spoke?
Yeah, so I have taken on more of a coaching role and actually like coaching teams. I would say up until about like maybe a month or two ago, I wasn't really doing a lot of player development stuff. Maybe like once a week or so, I would do like some training sessions. But for the most part, my priority was coaching teams. And so I have really shifted gears, and it's pretty similar to, I guess, player development when you're thinking of, like a practice design standpoint and what you're trying to get accomplished. But also it can be very different because now you're focusing more on team tactics. Like, yes, we're still working on individual development and team development, but now the more so focus is on principles of play and team concepts. And so my focus has really shifted to making sure that I'm being more of a leader, because now I'm with these kids pretty much every single day. Like we have practice every single day, we have training every single day, we have games on the weekend, and so I have to make sure that I am coming in every single day and setting the standard. Like I would do that prior, but I would be different kids. Like I would see different kids. As a trainer, I might be there every single day, but there's going to be different kids that are coming to the gym. Now as a team coach, I'm working pretty much with the same kids every single day. And so,
Wow.
also coaching in game is a lot different than, anything you have to do as a skills trainer. So, getting acclimated to becoming a coach, how I want to speak to the players, what are the most important things to talk about in timeouts? What are the most important things to talk about pre and post game? What are some things that we're trying to get accomplished? So, it's honestly a big mindset shift, and it's a lot different than training. And it's honestly something that I stepped away from for like about a year. I didn't really coach for about a year
Mhm.
because I was so invested in player development and I loved player development. Um, but then, I was like, you know what, I want to start this club and I want to do things a lot differently. And now, I would say coaching has become, or surpassed, player development for me in a standpoint. And I love coaching. But also like I love player development too. And I don't think I could do one without the other anymore. Like I have to kind of do them both.
Yeah.
So It's been an interesting transition, just kind of shifting gears, mindsets, and looking for different things than you would look for, like when you're just working and training athletes from a skill standpoint. So adjusting and making sure that I'm keeping tabs on all different things that you have to look for as a team coach is been a
Right.
big adjustment.
See, and just with regards to you making that shift, just with regards to, focusing on the skill acquisition side to now teaching basketball. I mean, I think you've always been big. And one thing that even drew me to your Instagram page and just your way of thinking was your drills would be pretty much your handle. It was game elite training.
Yeah,
It was
James Hamilton
not
training. Yep.
exactly. It was, I wouldn't even call it drills because they transferred so seamlessly to the game and you left room for them to explore, but you would add constraints as well. Like you've always been big on that. So what's something new that you've implemented in your training recently?
Mm, that's a great question. So, um, I wouldn't say this is like anything like revolutionary, but one thing that I like to do because I love adding constraints. I love coming up with new ways to get players to explore different affordances. And I notice sometimes when I am coaching or doing player development, I can make things complex sometimes. And like starting off and explaining the small sided game and the constraints that we're going to add within it, it can be very complex.
Mhm.
And what I've started to do is take a step back and I'll explain the small sided game and I'll let players, rock out and do that for about 2 minutes. And then I'll come in and I'll add the constraints. Right. So then that way they can, understand what the small sided game is. And then as we go on, I will add constraints, change up constraints. So what I used to do a lot too is I would every single day when I came into a session, I would try to fly through as many small sided games constraints as I could. So plays
Okay.
would be jam packed and they'd be getting, I couldn't even give you a number, but we would be going through a lot. And I think that was great. But what I've started to do is, okay, maybe we're only doing, five, small sided games today, but I'm going to keep them on these small sided games and I'm just going to, run through constraints and give them different things to start to look for, incentivize them in different ways and try to expand their affordances, and create different affordances for them. So, that is one thing I've been kind of like exploring is maybe not trying to fly and do so many drills. It's just like we're gonna have, 4 to 5 that we do today, but I'm going to let them kind of rock out with these ones and then just try different constraints. Maybe it's exploring different starting positions. So we mixing it up where we're starting from. It's not just the wing or the top of the key. Maybe it is we keep the same small sided game, but now the one constraint could have been, okay, you have to score outside of the paint, for the next 2 minutes. And then 2 minutes later, it's like, okay, now everything has to be inside the paint, just something
Mm.
like that. So it's just this kind of keeping, the same structure in terms
Yep.
of like the drill setup, but then, changing the constraints. So those are some things I've been playing around with a little bit more.
And just even with that, coach, like I just love this conversation because it's crazy. I could just see the growth even just through this conversation, man. It's just so dope to see, man. Like when it comes to you teaching a skill, especially now you were saying earlier, you're now working with players that you're seeing on a regular basis now with this team. Like when you're teaching a skill, what's your go-to strategy to make sure it sticks with a player long term?
That's a great question. So when it comes to like the team perspective and you want to make sure that these things are actually sticking,
Mhm.
this is a concept that we got from one of our coaches, Coach Silva. Great coach, by the way. He just joined us back in August. So he's
Nice.
been with us for, 7, 8 months or so. And one thing that he brought to my attention is the 60-30-10 rule. So 60% of your practice should be like kind of like your main focus, right? This is like the main topic that you want to do today. And this could also be for skills as well. Skills training. 30% is like kind of like a secondary thing you want to touch up on. And then the last 10% is like just a small piece of your practice. So the 60% of things, let's say, okay, today in practice, we are working on kind of flow within our triggers and being able to string triggers together on our offense. So 60% of practice is going to be around that. That may be 2 to 3 drills or so. But we're going to make sure that that majority of the time spent, we have an hour today.
Right.
You know, whatever 60% of an hour is, we're going to focus on that. Now, the 30% is going to be focused around some of our defensive principles. So we're working a lot right now on contact switching and where to be kind of like in the help side. So 30% is going to be focused on that. And then 10% of practice is going to be, okay, maybe we want to go over some of our, sideline and baseline out of bounds plays. So we're going to, work on that for 10% of the practice.
Right.
So that is something that we do. And now kind of to answer your question about like, how do we make sure like players are retaining this information?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so now maybe on, the next day in practice, we're going to flip it. So now maybe 60% is focused on the defensive principles that we just covered. 30% is on, flow and stringing those triggers together. And then maybe we keep the 10% the same or it's something different. So we're touching up on these things, but maybe we extend the amount of time that we're focusing on these things. So we'll do a little refresher. So maybe we come in, a week or two later, and now the 60% from 2 weeks ago, which was a stringing together or stringing triggers together,
Yeah.
now that becomes our 10%, just as a refresher, just to make sure players are retaining this information and able to, perform it efficiently.
I like that. I'm low key gonna steal that and borrow that, man, because because even for me, like I really with my sessions now, it was kind of similar to you. Like when I first started coaching, I would try and blast through everything and give like 10 different details, 10 different skills. Whereas now it's just like, no, let's just focus on three things and just emphasize that time and time again. And that 60-30-10 works perfect. So I'm definitely gonna implement that, man. And even for myself, coach, and I'm intrigued to get your mind on now, I love where basketball is moving in terms of from a coaching perspective now, we're not being so one-dimensional with uh what we teach. It's more how we teach it and adapting it to the players that we have in front of us and kind of allowing them to again, freestyle, experiment, even sometimes engineer their own drill and their own constraints, but also we want to give them instruction so that they're still hitting certain areas of emphasis. So for yourself, coach, how do you balance letting players figure things out organically versus giving them direct instruction?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that me and our myself and our coaches talk about a lot is the balance between, letting them just kind of play and
Yeah.
explore and figure it out on themselves, but then also like stepping in and coaching. And, with skill acquisition concepts, and if are a coach who follows these concepts and you're implementing them into your training and your coaching, sometimes it's common for coaches to think, "Oh, like, I should just kinda shut up and not say as much, really," and I kinda fell into the trap with that, is, like, I would just set up a small-sided game or a constraint and really wouldn't do any teaching, and I just let, like, players try to figure it out on their own, which is something I still do to this day. But there's just a point in time where you have to step in sometimes and just coach a little bit. And
Yeah.
maybe it's not even like stopping the whole group. Maybe it's going up to a player and giving them some feedback or giving them an individual constraint. So it's like, hey, maybe a player is struggling, with using their body and finishing with contact. And so it's like, hey, these next two possessions that you get, I want you to make contact before you shoot the ball. Like at some point, I really want you to start to use your body before you shoot the ball. So maybe it's just like a one-on-one conversation. Maybe it's a team thing and we're just stopping because we're seeing a common theme and it's like, hey, okay, we aren't able to, we're stopping after we do one trigger and we haven't really created an advantage. So what I want us to do with these next three possessions is I want you guys to go 3 triggers in a row, back to back to back. And I want you to see what happens. And let's just see if we can figure something out. And then, we might let them play, do those things. And now we come back and we teach a little bit more. So, what did we see there? Why would I have you guys, stop and now go 3 back to back? Um, and, using questions to kind of gauge their thinking.
I
Yeah,
like
and
that.
then teaching through the questions, So there'll be times where we do just give answers right away and be a little bit more direct. But then there's also times where we are asking them certain things and really getting them to think on their own and find solutions. But kind of the questions, that we ask, we make sure that they are very intentful
Yep.
and that they are kind of almost leading them to that answer.
Mm.
Now, there'll be times, like I said, like where we do give them the answer, because I know that's one thing too that a lot of skill acquisition, people that are big in this field is they'll be like, never give the answer, never, just directly tell them what to do. But, we've learned like sometimes that's okay. Like sometimes you do need to do that. Now, do we do that all the time? No. There's this
Right.
thing. We're very, intentful and purposeful when we do that. But we use like a lot of questions to get players just to, think critically and, some thought provoking questions that, just get them to think outside the box and really come up with solutions, on their own. Or even, like I said, sometimes those questions will kind of lead them to the answer and they don't even really realize it either.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that because I mean, I'm a big fan of asking questions. It could be like, when you made this read, if the defender is guarding you this way, what options do you have? And just kind of getting their mind thinking of it. And again, it's just what you guys do so well, honestly, is again making drills translate to the game and just improve their decision making. Because it's one thing, I mean, I know you've seen it, coach. You have a player, you put them in a 1v1, they got all the skill in the world. You put them in a 5-on-5 setting where they've got to read this pick and roll, they've got to read the help, and they've got to make that on time, on target pass. Their decision making goes out the window. So, and that's something that I've kind of seen it has gotten better, but I'm sure you've seen it as well. Like a lot of young players do still struggle with that game translation. So, how do you ensure the skills they work on actually show up in live play?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, with the team side of things, we are making sure that one, like we are planning all of our practices and training sessions. We're making sure that we have like the themes that we're going to focus on that day.
Right.
We're making sure that there's specific focuses. And then, two is we're making sure that we are playing the pretty much the whole practice or the whole training session. Like I would say 90% of our 95% of our training sessions, like, we're gonna be doing some sort of, like, one-on-one, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 things. In practices, it's pretty much, like, 99% of the time, unless we do some, like, shooting drill once a month or twice a month that's, like, on air. But, now how we are actually tracking these things and making sure, players are actually seeing results is we, give them certain constraints. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll pull a player to the side and I'll give them an individual constraint. So the reason we do that is they may not be seeing certain affordances. And so in order to help them kind of see this opportunity, we have to take a step back and say, okay, what does this player really need in this moment? Yes, the drill is to do this, or the small sided game is to do this, but can I give them another option? Can I expand, their solutions or potential solutions for them to kind of test out and see? And so then we'll pull them to the side, be like, hey, okay, I want you to next couple reps. I want you to look to get into the paint for your, next 3 shots. Like, you have to get somewhere in the paint. Maybe it's, hey, you have to attack and get 2 dribbles downhill before you can find a shot. Like, you're really stopping, like, after 1 dribble and just getting into your jumper. Like, I
Yeah.
want you to take 2 dribbles this next time and try to explore. So giving players individual, constraints has really helped, just trying to gauge and helping them find different solutions. And then, also just statistics as well. Like for the team side of things, we have a lot of, we actually have advanced analytics. Shout out to our guy, George, who runs all of our advanced analytics. So the stats that you see, a lot of teams talk about, I know like JJ Redick is a big advanced here. He's got,
Yeah.
so there's, apps out there, or, softwares out there like Synergy, Second
Yeah.
Spectrum that allow these things, but I know like the public doesn't have access to these things. So, our guy George created his own platform where he's able to track advanced analytics. So, we're able to look and see if players are progressing, through some of those, analytics that we are tracking.
Nice. Nice. And even now, like you kind of, even before and now, you're studying the game a lot just to help you with your coaching development. And even like just before, you've always been diving deep into the game. Like, what are some of your go to resources, whether it's books, film studies, or even mentors that help you grow as a coach?
Yeah. So, honestly, like, Coleman has been, one of the dudes who I have been very close with over the past, 3, 4 years. And using him as a resource, as a mentor, we have coaching education calls pretty much every week. Just
Nice.
myself with Coleman, with our other coach I mentioned earlier, Coach Silva, and then all of the other coaches that we have under the By Any Means branch. So, using those guys as resources, and then, we created a coaching certification here recently,
Nice.
By Any Means basketball. So, coaches from around the world, if they are wanting to become a better coach, and it's not just even like a better trainer or a better team coach. Oh, excuse me. It's also, culture, how to build a culture, how to build a business. I've taken the certification, and we've had other coaches who've taken the certification and gone through it. And that's a big resource that we use too, just to grow and get better as coaches, as business owners, as, leaders. Those are all resources that we use. But, using those guys, and then, there's other people I look to as well, that kind of help me with the team side of things, that have, honestly helped me grow, as a coach and as a trainer tremendously, over the years. So those are some of the, resources that we use. Definitely, if there's any coaches out there that are, wanting to become a better coach, a better trainer, better businessman, or, just learn how to build a, unique culture, definitely recommend the, coaches certification. If you are looking into that, we have a bunch of information online. You can reach out to me personally, and we can, help you, look into different options for the, coaches certification. But that is something that we use, that I use.
Right.
And, there's a ton of great coaches out there that I follow, that I look to.
Right.
Podcasts that I watch, like I love the, Transforming Basketball podcast.
Yes.
A Quick Timeout podcast. That's another good one.
Oh,
There is one, I'm pretty sure it's called X's and O's. It's, I forgot the host's name, but he had Thomas Isolo
oh wow.
on the, podcast a few, weeks ago. So I hacked into that, and then he had, a couple other great coaches that were on there too. So, uh, been looking at, different resources to help me, grow as a, as a coach and as a trainer.
Nice. I see. That's something. As a coach, we are always students of the game. It is something that I didn't realize until the past week. I was thinking, 'cause I remember when I got my coaching qualification in basketball from my mentor at the time. Shout out to Coach Rob Weaver. And at the end of every class he would give, like he would give us feedback. Okay, you need to make sure you plan your lessons, or this is how you speak to a player to get them to engage. But one thing I always remembered is at the end, he'll get, okay, I've given you guys feedback. What's my feedback? What could have been better? And I never really understood why he did that now, but it's only now in my later years of coaching, I'm like, damn, like he really, even at that level where he'd been coaching for 20 plus years, Coach Gabe, and he was like, no, like I can still get better. There is still something that I can improve on. So, and especially what you guys got going on, I just absolutely love it, man. And just with regards to how you break down film, or even just studying the game, like, do you have a specific method or framework that you follow?
That's a great question. So, me as a coach, changing from a training perspective, a training lens, and looking at through a coach's lens is very different.
Yeah.
So, when I'm watching film, I love to use Synergy. Like I'll go on and, use Synergy to study, different teams, and see, what kind of common trends are happening around different leagues, whether it's the NBA or the Euro League. So I'll go in and I'll look at, different actions they may be running, different like, okay, they're scoring very a high points per possession in transition. So let's go study their transition offense. So that helps a lot having kind of synergy. And that's where I do most of like my studies because I'm able to go directly to such like a minute detail like transition offense. Whereas like if I watch the full game, then it's a little bit harder to find these things. But sometimes I will go back and I'll watch full games.
Right.
And then, when I'm watching, film with my own teams, I go in with the focus, okay, um, you know, one, what do I want to look at, in today's, or from this game?
Right.
Okay. What were our, what are our offensive principles? Okay. Did we execute these offensive principles? What could have been better? Could I have actually called a timeout in this moment? Instead, right here, like what happened to the flow of this game? How could I have been better as a coach? And then, sometimes I'll even say, okay, maybe I have to, maybe I did call a timeout. What would I have done differently in this timeout? Like, okay, I called a timeout right here. Maybe I don't remember what I talked out of it, but what would I be telling myself now going back and watching this film? What would I have done differently? So really understanding, okay, what are our principles offensively and defensively? Are we actually executing those things?
Yeah.
Is there any adjustments I would be making here? What could I have done differently? So that's kind of how I, watch film. I know that was more of like a broad answer, but those are some of the things that I kind of look for when I'm watching my own team's film. And then, like I said, if I'm watching like doing a deep dive or a study on a certain team or player,
Yeah.
I'll just go to synergy just because it makes things a lot easier.
Right. Love that, man. I love that. Even just like how you could have called a timeout, or even just, I love how you put even when I called a timeout. Now that I've seen this footage, seen this film, what could I have added to that timeout, or what could I have said? That is, I'm just taking that gem as well, coach.
Mhm.
Honestly, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
This is something weird that I started to do with film study too. I had literally just started doing this like 2 weeks ago because we do like our coaches education calls, like I said, and Coach Silva, who ran the last one, he had us kind of watch like a game, a March Madness game from like 2 years ago, and he had us like drawing up plays like on the spot, like you didn't even know what was gonna happen. So
Okay.
what I've been doing is like when I watch like the film, I will actually like, okay, if I need to draw up something right here, like like if there's a timeout in the game, I'll give myself that full timeout and I'll just like draw up something that I would have done here, different things like that. So just being creative with that has helped a lot too. And it's something like I said, I literally have only done it one time. So I need to go back and do it again because it was a fun, activity. So those are different ways that I'm, watching film and breaking things down.
Nice. Nice. And just with regards to like optimizing player workouts and development, because I'm sure you get a lot of players in person that might ask you this question, or just through the DMs and social media. Like, players often struggle with structuring their workouts. So what's your ideal structure for an effective individual session?
Yeah. So when you are working out on your own, it's important that one, you know exactly what you want to get done that day. Okay. Um, let's say it is shooting off of the dribble. Okay. I want to become a better shooter and creating my own shot like off of the dribble, and I'm alone. Like there's no one else with me. I am like one thing that I really challenge players to do is don't just like rep out a move and like go like work on that move. Um, l- give yourself different constraints. Okay. So if we're going out the dribble shooting, I can say, okay, I'm going to start at half court. I have one dribble to get into a off the dribble three. Every time that I go, I'm going to move to a different spot and I have to try to start like a different way. So maybe I say two dribbles. Okay. I got two dribbles. I got to get into a catch and shoot three. So now it's challenging me. I have to start at a different spot every time. I have to find a new way to get into my shot every single time. And I'm probably not going to be making a lot of my shots. If I am more of like a, high school player possibly, or even like a younger player. And then, maybe if I am a more advanced player and I'm doing really good, maybe it's like, okay, I have to make 10 without missing two in a row, or without missing two shots, something like that. So giving yourself different constraints, challenging yourself. Maybe it's like, okay, now I am starting inside the 3-point line. I'm starting in the paint. I have one dribble to get behind the 3-point line, and I have to just turn and get into my shot as quick as possible. So now it's just giving myself different challenges and different problems to solve. As you're seeing, like those constraints that I'm setting up, it's kind of giving you an open floor to get into those shots however you want, whatever you
Yeah.
fit, right? And like I said, like you can set another constraint on yourself to where it's like, okay, I cannot do the same thing 2 times in a row. So it's like I have to try a different dribble, I have to try a different spot, I have to turn a different direction. So maybe I'm starting facing the basket. The next time I start facing away from the basket. So now it's getting me to really dive deeper into my quote unquote bag,
Yeah.
really try to see what works for me, see what other things I can try to accomplish, within that small framework. So I would say if you are on your own and you are trying to structure an individual workout, have a theme and a focus that you want to work on that day. And it's not necessarily about repping out different moves and adding different moves to your arsenal. It's
Yeah.
about solving different problems.
There we
So
go.
I would say that's like a big thing is, within those 2 drills I just gave you right there, you're literally having something, some problem to solve, and there's so many different solutions that you can really try to find on your own or solve on your own. So that's what I would, say when you are doing workouts on your own.
See, and that's something that you guys do so well, just that by any means basketball. Like even you see it when you're engaging with the players, they're solving different problems, but they're having fun with it. Like it almost doesn't even look like it's work. Obviously, yes, it's challenging, but it's that fine balance of I'm confident and I'm gaining more confidence doing this move, but I haven't got that level of mastery yet. So it's still challenging me. It's that fine line that you guys have, and you guys do it so well, man. And it's just great to see a player. You can almost see them like thinking and like, okay, they try this move, and when it finally clicks, like that just is instilled in their memory, and they're able to bring it out whenever they want. So shout out to you guys, man, because you guys, honestly, Coach Gabe, you guys are doing an amazing job, man. For real,
Thank you.
man.
No, I appreciate that. Like I said, it's been a lot of research and studying over the past few years that we've been doing this stuff.
Yeah,
So it's taken a lot of time, man, but I can say that if you are willing to do the research on your own and find ways to kind of implement these strategies, but then not only find this research or watching certain videos, it's actually taking action and trying it out with your players, even
yeah.
trying it out on your own too. I think is huge. In order for you to actually get better at these things, there has to be action taken. And so looking to implement these things, with your players or even with yourself is a way that you are going to be able to retain this information.
Right, right. I'm kind of just thinking now, like of a player who might not necessarily have a lot of time, or they might have limited access to a gym. What would you say is like the best way for them to just keep improving?
Yeah. If you have limited access to a gym, now this is easy for me to say in Southern California where it's sunny,
Yeah,
sunny 80% of the year, 90% of the year. Um, for us out here, it's a little bit easier to go find an outdoor court and kind of like work on your own. But I understand not everywhere has, beautiful weather and sunshine. So, if you are in a place where it's snowing, where it's raining a lot, look for ways to challenge yourself. Maybe it's like, okay, you can get in the garage and dribble, get in, maybe there is, a place for you to, like, let's say the gym is packed that day and there's not really a lot of space for you to work out. Maybe you just go on the sideline and you're just doing certain ball handling things. Maybe it's you going to the weight room, maybe it's you doing some body weight workouts. I know gym time is hard to find. Resources are hard to find in many parts of the world, and even out here, it is. There's some areas where it's hard to get into the gym and stuff. So I would say making the most of what you have. Like I said, going into the garage. Maybe it is going to the gym, and if it's packed, you just have to work within a small space that you have. I would say those are the things that, you can do. Doing body weight workouts, at home on your own, like that's how knock out 100 push-ups every day. Like,
Yeah.
do what you can to still find ways to get better and work on your game. And even like, let's say, okay, you can't dribble inside your house. You are stuck inside, and you really can't go outside because it's raining, it's snowing. Then, like I said, do a body weight workout inside your room and then go find someone that you want to study and you
Yeah.
go watch film on them. I think those are ways to, make the most of what you have.
Right. And just with regards to looking ahead, I mean, since the last time we spoke to now, so much has happened, so much knowledge has been gained. You've connected with so many more players in such a intentful way. Like, what is next for By Any Means Basketball, for yourself? And are there any exciting projects or collaborations that are coming up?
Yeah, that's something that we've been kind of looking to this year. Coleman does a lot of traveling and he's traveling a lot, going to Europe, go to
See,
Australia. And I've gotten to, tag along a couple times to Europe, to Australia. And, for me right now, the biggest priority is kind of the local scene and what we're doing here in San Diego. And I'm going to be primarily focusing on, growing our businesses out here, Detail San Diego, Adapt Academy San Diego. So it's nothing major, nothing, new. We're not going to be really traveling too much. But that is my number one focus right now, is to make sure that we are in a good spot and changing lives and impacting the game, is a big thing that we take pride in within our programs. Is we are bigger than basketball, and we want to make sure that players that are coming into our program are able to walk away and say, you know what, I have learned things that are going to take me farther than basketball. I've learned lessons that are going to help me for the rest of my life. And so that is, kind of just what we're focusing on right now, is making sure that, our San Diego programs are the best programs possible in our area. And we are providing a great experience and a great service for everybody who joins us. So that is our focus. There's nothing, I know it's not too exciting or too, new or revolutionary. So just pretty much gonna stick around here and make sure that, we are thriving with, all of our families and all of our players that are involved in our program.
Love that, man. Love that. And honestly, just a final tool before we wrap up with the Beyond the Game segment. Like, where do you see, coach? Like, where do you see the future of player development heading? Sorry, and are there any trends in training that you think will become even more prominent?
Yeah. I do see a lot of, coaches and trainers, they are leaning more into the skill acquisition side of things. I wouldn't even say skill acquisition, but it's more so like the games-based approach. So
Yeah.
they're starting to implement more games into their training, which I think is phenomenal. And it's really cool to see. So I do see a big, upward trajectory of coaches starting to implement, more games-based stuff. And with that, I would love for coaches to start to, look into skill acquisition concepts and start to actually study these things and, see how you can take the games further. How can you add constraints into these things? What are different concepts that we talked about, or sorry, not we, but what are different concepts that are talked about, in skill acquisition
Right.
that you can actually implement into your training sessions. I do see a desire and curiosity for coaches, wanting to get into those areas. And I would say keep being curious, keep having that, fire to lean into those areas, because those things, I believe, are great strategies and great ways to develop good players. And so, keep leaning into those things and keep researching those things. And if you ever, need help on where to start or where to look, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Coleman at By Any Means Basketball.
Yeah.
That, we can be a great resource for you guys. And we'd love to, continue, the conversation, educating coaches. That's a big actually thing that we are working on too. I did not mention that. I totally forgot. We're big right now on educating coaches. Like I mentioned, the certification is something that we are pushing. We want to see more coaches that are, wanting to really take their coaching to the next level. And so we created that certification to help coaches and give them kind of a pathway and a foundation to kind of get started and put them on the right track to take this journey to the next level. So if you are interested in learning more about the certification, feel free to reach out to me, Coleman, or just even reach out to us for other resources, and we'll be more than happy to, help you guys out. So, that's kind of, I guess, a big part of what we're doing next as well, is actually like educating coaches. So, I forgot about that, but that'll be a next big thing as well.
Definitely, man. Definitely. And if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring hoopers that are just looking to take their game to the next level, what would it be?
There is going to be a lot of moments where you feel like quitting. There's going to be moments where you feel discouraged, where you feel like your back's against the wall. Maybe you're not improving. Maybe you're in a slump. Maybe you're just not having fun with the game. And I will tell you, one thing is, when you have those thoughts of feeling discouraged, of wanting to quit, of wanting to give up, man, stay at it, man. Keep being a dream chaser. They're,
Wow.
a part of, something I believe in. I've made a ton of merch around being a dream chaser back in the day. And that's something I live by, is just always chasing your dreams, no matter what anybody tells you. And there's going to be a lot of times of doubt, of uncertainty, of really just questioning, like, am I really built for this? Do I know if I'm made out to be a basketball player?
Yeah.
And, I would wholeheartedly tell you, yes, keep pushing, keep doing those things, and keep striving for what you want. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. There's been plenty of times in my, not even just hooping career, but just business career, where people are like, no, like, go do something else. You need to step away from what you're doing. And, I stayed the course, and I know that if I did not stay the course, I would not be living the life that I'm living right now, and it would not be, I would not be in a great, mental space, because I would be doing something I dread. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
keep being a dream chaser, and chasing, whatever passion that you have.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Coach, honestly, like I appreciate your time so, so much. And like I said, just for the coaches, so many gems. For the players, so many gems and tips just to apply like right this second. And don't worry, guys, the link will be in the description of this episode for those who are watching on YouTube, Spotify, or even listening to it as well. But coach, just for the coaches who just want to tap in with you, that want to get that certification, that just want to use you guys and just learn from you, but also for the players as well that just want to elevate their game. When it comes to the socials, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at by any means Gabe on Instagram. And then if you want to, chop it up about anything, if you have questions about anything we talked about in today's podcast, or just you as a player wanting to get better, or as a coach wanting to get better, feel free to DM me on there, and I'll be more than happy to chop it up with you guys, and see how I can help. And then if you are interested in the certification, or even as a player, like you're a player, and maybe you just want to grow and get better, definitely check out By Any Means Basketball YouTube. Check out the website. We have virtual training academies on there as well. So as a player, if you're wanting to, take your game to the next level, we have a ton of workouts on YouTube. And then also, if you want a full program, we also have them online at byandymeansbasketball.com. So you can check out all things for players and coaches there.
Nice, nice. Honestly, man, Coach Gabe, thank you so much for your time. Listeners, appreciate your time. And like you said, and like Coach Gabe said, just keep pushing. Stay locked in, stay focused. Just know that you are here for the right reasons, and it's just all led by intent. And again, it's bigger than basketball, man. So again, Coach Gabe, appreciate your time. This is myself, Coach D. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, and Coach Gabe signing out.
Thank you, my guy. Appreciate
That's
it.
to Coach